baby boomer, Generation X, millennial, or Gen Z? Which of these has the greatest risk for addiction, and what kinds of different addictions arise over generations? That's the discussion of the night, whether you like it or not. You bunch of boomers, you bunch of millennials, and you bunch of Gen Zers. Generation X rules. And millennials. I'm literally on the last year of Generation X, 1980. So it could be said that I'm a zennial, a Generation Xer combined with a millennial. We got to see before internet was around and after internet was around. Before cell phones, after cell phones. We got to see the opiate crisis, everything from opiate crisis. Let's see. Well, you tell me. Let me change the, what's up, Rally? Let me change the chat box color because it's kind of wild. I can't really see it. There we go. Hey, Miss Ford. Miss hashtag Holly Ford. We're discussing the different generations and our different addictions and the highest risk for those addictions. My name is James. I'm a grateful recovering addict and alcoholic. I'm a Gen Xer. 1980. I'm actually a Gen Zennial, a mix between Gen X and Millennial. I'm on the very edge of the change in generations, 1980. I'll tell you all about my addictions here in a minute. But first, a message from American Addiction Centers. Data from the 2022 National Survey of Drug Use and Health shows that a mental health or substance use disorder during the last year was reported among roughly 40% of adults between the ages of 26 and 49. That's 40% of adults with a substance abuse disorder between the ages of 26 and 49. But only 21% of adults age 50 and older. That might be able, and this is a discussion that we will go into, that might be the introduction of various different drugs, prescription drugs, different health care plans. Back in Black. What up, Rally? What up, Fit for Task? How goes it? London calling. It's London call. I don't know the words. I just know the percussion. Check it out. There's also social media addiction, something that boomers and aren't, well, maybe they are because they are experiencing it as well. But in your formative years, aka preteen and early teen and late teen, we experience the world and the formation of our personality in accordance with the technology that is available and popular at the time. So Gen Zers, for example, born between 1995 and 2015, definitely heavy on technology. Their addictions might include more of the swiping, scrolling, Mimi and Jiffy and social posty and, you know what I'm saying? Snapchat filtery addictions, screen time addictions. Whereas millennials and Gen Xers, like myself, we experience the back half of nicotine addiction. There's another thing. Gen Zers are growing up in the age of nicotine vaping. They might have been exposed, or I'm going to go ahead and say they will have been exposed at an earlier age to nicotine due to the fruity flavors and the easily acquirable and easily smuggleable, aka in middle school and high school. Everybody's got a vape in their pocket of nicotine. Also, cannabis is relatively legal right now, and that too can be in your pocket without a. I'm a late Gen Xer, early millennial. I'm a zillennial, a mix between Gen X, 1980. So when I wanted to smoke weed in high school, middle school, man, oh man, I had to pack Visine. I had to pack lighter, bowl, and we couldn't get a lighter or a bowl. Reagan had not too distantly had just put the war on drugs into effect. So to get a bowl, a bong, a pipe was even hard for me to do as a middle schooler. So we had to make Gatorade bongs out of a Gatorade bottle and some tin foil. We had to smoke weed out of a Coke can by poking holes in an aluminum Coke can. Nowadays you can get a vape at a gas station and be on your way to Timbuktu in no time. So, I was born in 1980, JV. So you and I are basically within the subset called Millennials between 76 and 83. Or 77 and 83, I think. The mini subset called the Zillennial. We experienced before the internet and computers, and we experience it now, obviously, since we're on it right now. We experienced before cell phones, after cell phones. Zillennial. I'm grateful for that, for the time. We've seen a lot. Millennials and Zillennials and Gen Xers and Boomers. Well, in our formative years, Millennials also experienced 9/11, where there was a lot of fear culture. So me and John Venturini, being part Gen Xers, man, first of all, Reagan's war on drugs is still going on, and guess who's been winning that war since he has called for war on drugs in the 80s or 70s, 80s. Guess who's been winning that war? Drugs has been winning the war on drugs ever since Reagan put it into effect. And it not a good, you might say that's a good war, you know what I mean? But it's not. It's not a good war. It fueled a lot of racism, systemic racism, crack cocaine, you know what I'm saying? Let's just say the rate of blacks that were arrested compared to whites that were arrested, both doing cocaine, but the war was concentrating on crack cocaine, which was cheaper than powdered cocaine, and therefore usually in the more poverty-stricken areas. And that happened to be still the oppressed people from systematic racism happened to be most of the African Americans, most black people. So a lot of black people went to jail for the war on drugs. And white people doing the same drug, cocaine, but living and working on Wall Street didn't. So let's just say that the boomers Well, the boomers experienced crack cocaine. No, yeah, the boomers experienced crack cocaine. I was still in my single digit ages when crack cocaine was on the street, so I didn't get much of that. But I know guys just a little bit older than me that did experience crack cocaine in their formative years, in their 20s. It is now being studied that Generation Zers. Okay, so Generation Z is born between 95 and 2015. And then you got Generation Alpha, which is anyone below the age of 13 right now, basically. Yeah, the private prison system was also being, or whatever, I don't know. Yeah, so cocaine during the 80s. The rich people doing powdered cocaine barely got it. The jails and the institutions and death, whereas the crack cocaine users, Reagan waged the war mostly on crack cocaine. A lot of people say that was systemic racism. And but I don't know enough about it to go into it. But let me read you something about, this is from drugabuse.com. Throughout all four generations, being the baby boomers, 1943 to 1962, Generation X, 1963 to this one says 82. The Millennials, 1983 to 2002. And Generation Z. Between those four generations, alcohol has been the most commonly used substance. Within the past year of the user's life, within the past year, over 80% of millennials, Gen Xers, and boomers had used alcohol recently within the past year. For the boomers, 19 was the age during which alcohol was most frequently consumed, whereas Generation X and millennials peaked at age 22. Even the lucky few showed a past year usage prevalence of over 80% in their early 40s. Marijuana, or cannabis, as I like to say, because I don't use the word marijuana because there are ties to the word marijuana being a propaganda word used by the government to influence our view of the drug being associated with the then demonized Mexican-American illegal immigrants. So I use the word cannabis. Second most used drug for all the generations, but as you might expect from the emerging drug culture of the 1960s, boomers stand out from the pack. Boomers, millennials, and Gen Xers saw their recent marijuana usage peak around 18 to 20, but the millennials and Gen Xers, how old is this? This might be an old article. It says updated in 2023, but I find it hard to believe that cannabis use among Generation Z is not extremely high, pun intended. Hey, give me a thumbs up if you like my stuff. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend. If you don't like my stuff, give this video a thumbs down and share it with an enemy. How's it going, Lorena Cornella? Oh, Lorena Cornella. Hey, you want to... I was just going to say, do you want to call in? Let's see who this is.
Call from
Noah.
Hey, what up, Noah? A representative of Gen Z.
Yes, I am. What's up?
What's up, man? You are repping Gen Z.
Yeah, I am Gen Z.
Born between 1995 and 2015.
Yeah.
So how's things, man? How's it going? How was that morning after your gas station Adderall trip?
Well, actually, I did it again this morning, but I started having really bad chest pains, so I was forced to stop.
Yeah.
It's for
Well,
whatever weird reason, stimulants do that. They make you feel like you can't breathe.
well, it's kind of shady that stuff is the reason that it's legal over the counter and Adderall isn't is because they manipulated the chemistry just a little
Yeah.
bit to make it to pass the legalities. So that's kind of sketchy. I used to do the same thing with over the counter Xanax. You can buy them at, like smoke shops and stuff. But this is a good
Yeah.
thing too to point out is Generation Zers, uh, like Noah, have access to all kinds of different decriminalized things, and a more the opioid crisis just happened. That was more millennial, Gen Y.
Right.
For those who don't know, Generation Y and millennial are interchangeable. But yeah, that was more millennial. But there's new stuff now, with all the vapes and the gas station heroin and the gas station Adderall.
Yeah, there's quite a lot.
So you did it again, huh?
Yeah, I did it again.
So you haven't had enough yet?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but no.
No, you'll know when you have enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like you've had enough.
Well, I want to stop, but I won't. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That
Um,
kind of deal.
I wanted to read something interesting about your generation,
What's that?
and drug abuse. Let me find it. Here it is. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the NIDA, Generation Z may have a higher risk of developing substance abuse problems than previous generations. In 2015, 23.6 of 12th graders used illicit drugs. That's a quarter of the population in 12th grade, but I mean, I can't say that for my generation, but I know I did by 12th grade. And the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism reported that over 4.2 million people between the ages of 12 and 20 admitted to binge drinking. However, the 2022 federal survey of nearly 1,500 Gen Z youth ages 12 to 17 found that 25% had either a major depressive episode or a substance use disorder in the past year. I would say with the revolution of technology and the decriminalization of a lot of drugs, including I think all of them in the state of Oregon, and most likely to be further across the U.S. and the world, who
I'm
knows?
pretty sure Oregon. I'm pretty sure they legalized like all the drugs.
Yeah, Oregon. Well, they didn't. They decriminalized them, and they're different
Yeah.
legal terms, but it means the same thing. However, we never know what's going to happen because Reagan in the 80s was president, and he did the war on drugs, which for 20 years or more, we're probably still experiencing the effects of that.
Yeah.
That's when
And
all the dare to stay off drugs, and there was commercials that were having people smoking a joint and jumping out of a window and shit.
Dare didn't do anything.
The what do?
Dare.
Oh,
It
Dare.
was yeah. It was this thing in fifth grade. It's about drugs.
Yeah,
You know.
dare to stay off drugs. We had it too
Yeah.
in fifth grade.
Yeah. And it doesn't work. So
No, it doesn't.
it was a good performance though.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. There's different metrics you can measure it by. I mean, maybe it reached some. Maybe it even saved some. Maybe it even turned some in the wrong direction. You just never really know. But
Yeah.
like I said in the beginning of the stream, it's a popular opinion that drugs have been winning the war on drugs ever since the war on drugs started.
Yeah. And who knows how long that's been.
Yeah, since the 80s.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I just I didn't even realize how addicted I really was to nicotine until school started back up. And usually, during like my freshman year of high school, I was able to go the full 7 hours without even the wanting of nicotine. But now, within like an hour and a half without it, I'm already, obsessing for it. So I think school really showed me.
yeah. Yeah, school's like a double-edged sword. From one mouth, from the teacher's mouth, you get dare to stay off drugs, just say no, and drugs are bad. And then at lunchtime and recess, you're surrounded by your peers, which may or may not be doing drugs.
Yeah.
Um, Shades mentions that Quaaludes were basically a boomer problem because I've never had a Quaalude in my life, and I've done all kinds of
that?
drugs, but that was mostly a boomer problem. People that were born 1944 to 1964, our dads and probably your granddad.
What are Quaaludes?
Quaaludes, I think, are barbiturates.
Oh,
Let me.
I've never even heard of it.
Hey Siri, what's a Quaalude? Methaqualone is a hypnotic sedative. So it's a hypnotic. It was sold under brand names like Quaalude and Sopar, among others. 300 milligrams of methaqualone, sold as a combination drug under the brand, mostly in Europe. So it's a hypnotic.
Wow.
Yeah, they were big.
Huh.
They were big.
Actually, I have a question. Whenever you were in high school and let's say you got caught smoking weed, would they end up expelling you?
I was expelled for smoking weed. Yeah.
Yeah, because now they don't even do that. They just pretty much all they do is suspend you.
I was a problem student though, so they probably just took that as a reason. It probably depends, but yes, it's back then. Let's see, when I got expelled, it was around. It was probably, let me just say, it was 1994. I remember O.J. Simpson being on the news stations and shit. But I remember being in the principal's office, and he went through my backpack and found weed. So the Reagan administration had not too recently, but fairly recently, had demonized pot.
Yeah.
It's been Schedule 1 on the schedule of illicit substances, which is on the same schedule as heroin and LSD, which I wouldn't agree is on the LSD is pretty strong though, but it's definitely not a lethal drug like heroin and whatever else is on Schedule 1. Schedule 1 means no medicinal value.
Oh.
Yeah, Quaaludes was in that movie Wolf on Wall Street.
Yeah. I hate the drugs that make me hallucinate. like LSD.
You hate them?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't like
they're
stuff.
intense at a young age. They're intense. But
Yeah.
let me just tell you, psychedelics, which is LSD, mushrooms, ayahuasca, peyote, MDMA, which is Molly,
Yeah.
ketamine, I think, is in that group. But I can tell you from experience, LSD and psilocybin, which are mushrooms, do have an array of spiritual and psychological benefits after your brain is formed, which means your 30s and your 40s.
25 or 30.
I remember taking LSD at, I don't even know, probably 20 or 18 or 17, 16, and freaking the fuck out because you don't know what's what yet. You don't even know what's what.
Yeah.
And you get scared. But there's also more research on it now medicinally, but it is psychedelics are very intense. Psych means brain. Psych means mind. Psychedelics.
Yeah, like
psycho.
Like psycho.
Yeah. Taj says, "What do you think of kratom?" I think
I've never tried it.
When I wasn't drinking for a couple of years, I had tried all different kinds of stuff, including kratom. And I remember dry heaving on kratom because I'm an addict. I have the disease of addiction. I will take more and more of something. It doesn't matter. I would eat so much kratom, it was disgusting. And I remember dry heaving and getting sweats and stuff. Yeah, Shades, heroin and opiates in general are painkillers naturally. Codeine, morphine, heroin, opium. These are all painkillers. Alcohol is a medicine. Drug and medicine are synonymous, which means they mean the same thing. But you can abuse drugs, medicine. You know what I mean? I used to drink Robitussin. It's got something called DXM in it. It's a hallucinogenic. Alcohol is an anesthetic. You know what I mean? Cocaine used to be used in the dental industry.
Right.
So, or as a stimulant, just like caffeine. In fact, I think it's a fact that they used to put it in Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it, or maybe just coca leaves or something like that. But I think that's a historical fact.
I'm pretty sure before World War started, I'm pretty sure heroin was legal.
Heroin, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Over 100 years ago.
A lot of drugs became legal for a lot of different reasons, and some of them weren't as pure as others. Some of them had to do with too much money being thrown around without it being taxed. That was cocaine. A lot of it had to do with war and political reasons. That's marijuana. They said these hippies are protesting the Vietnamese war. Let's do a war on drugs and just arrest everyone doing marijuana and LSD. That happens to be the same people that were protesting the war on Vietnam and blacks. The U.S. has not had a fucking pretty history with black people, and we've had to fucking, well, not even us. They've had to dig their way out of it. Non prejudice and racist people like, I'm just going to say myself, just have to deal with the guilt from our ancestors. But people of color, which essentially means there's a lot of people of color, except blacks and Native Americans have experienced the worst of American history, and has gone back the longest. Chinese, Indian, Haitian, they came into the country later. So like the the most lengthy period of violent racism has been on blacks and Native Americans. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So, but unfortunately, a lot of the war on drugs, at least from the history I've paid attention to, had to do sometimes with racism, sometimes with political agendas, sometimes with social agendas. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I would have to say, too, that I'm not sure which way nicotine addiction is going as far as millennials and Generation Zers and Generation Alphas. Generation Alphas are 13-year-olds and below right now, I think. But I don't know if it's going to go up because of the vaping or down because cigarettes definitely have been
not as popular.
Right. I still catch boomers. I still catch Generation Xers and sometimes millennials, but mostly Generation Xers and boomers still smoke.
Yeah.
Well, you're actually a Gen Zer. You smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, cigarettes are still out there, although just all that cancer, the history of cancer has taken its toll on the, literally the truth has taken its toll on the tobacco industry.
Yeah. They'll do whatever it is to just make money.
Yeah. Yeah. They used to have Joe Camel. And when I was a kid, they had Joe Camel, telling us how cool it was. You know, he was basically a cool looking cartoon camel.
It's definitely not cool to be addicted to it.
Yeah, or lung cancer is definitely not cool, but that was before all of the. Now we can just literally within 5 seconds you can bring up a picture of somebody with lung cancer. And that is a benefit that Gen Zers, millennials, and even Gen Xers have. Well, Gen Xers, we already went through. Gen Xers like myself, and some millennials kind of went through they went through some internet. Like we still had to look up stuff in the, go to a library to do research. Not so much millennials, but definitely Gen Xers. So like Gen Xers, as teenagers, they could at least go to their computers, or no, millennials could at least go to their computers and Google it. Maybe. Am I thinking right here? Millennials so they were born, so in the 90s, they would have been teenagers or in the early 2000s. So they could at least kind of Google it. But definitely Gen Zers can just pick up a phone and just be like...
And just immediately do it.
Yeah. Or watch lung cancer documentaries on YouTube.
Well, I will say this. I do believe that Gen Z probably has the biggest problem with, pornography.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Because we have all the phones and it's so easy.
I mean, I was in my 30s, but that would have been the time that you were, How old are
you? 43?
I'm 43. I was born in 1980. Yeah. So I'm pretty grateful to have experienced pre-internet and cell phone and after too, because I've seen a lot of stuff, like a lot of change.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we were using VHSs, which were like the cassette tapes for VCRs. That was what we watched movies on.
Right.
Like a big ass tape, the size of a book, you just into the VCR. We went to rent them at Blockbuster and video rental places. And now literally I can just if you recommend me a movie in our conversation, I could just watch it right after this stream. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was a kid, I would have been like, I might have been able to drive to Blockbuster if I had the like membership card or whatever, and then fucking rent the movie. Maybe if it was in.
Right, if it was in.
So I'm kind of grateful to see the different stuff, and now especially. So I don't know if you've ever watched the curve of the technological revolution, but it was really flat up until about the Industrial Revolution, which was like the early 1900s. And then it started going up and up and up. And then towards, you know, the 1980s, now it's just going straight up. It was flat, it was horizontal, and now it's vertical. And it's all been the past 200 years that we are just getting stuff quicker and quicker and quicker. Like now that technology, it's like now technology is inventing technology.
Yeah.
So like I have no doubt if I'm lucky enough to live, you know, who knows when we will ever die. Let's just say if I'm lucky enough to live 20 more years, man, there's already jetpacks, there's already flying cars, there's already all that. So I'm pretty grateful for my generation to be able to see you know, and also cigarettes. Cigarettes, I think, will eventually phase out.
Yeah, I think within the next 10 years or so. For the next decade.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Then, yeah, as you mentioned, you got new, I'm sure pornography has been an addiction since it's been, you know.
Yeah, well, for a long time.
I mean, there was porn on hieroglyphs. But I know what you mean. It's easily accessible now. And
30 seconds.
yeah, so Gen Z is especially going through puberty. Like when you hit 13 as a boy, women are, and then there's the social changes too. Like women have been more sexually liberated since the 60s, especially the 70s, the 80s, and then especially now you got Cardi B on the mic.
Oh yeah.
And women, we went in the 90s, the word, you know, there was dirty words like slut or hussy was a word back in like or floozy in the 40s. Anyway, there was dirty words for sexually promiscuous women. Now it's a pride thing. They're badass bitches.
Yeah.
So like, there's going to be more sex. Well, who knows? I don't know. There's a lot of complications to it, but I do know porn addiction is a thing. Then there's also just straight social media addiction.
Yeah, some people are really hooked to just being on their phone all day.
Right.
I'm glad I'm not that.
Yeah, I mean, it's even when I say I'm not that, I'll still find have you ever lost your phone? It's a crazy feeling.
Oh yeah, or you forget your phone.
It's a crazy feeling being without your phone. You're just like, oh my God, I can't do anything. I can't do anything until I find my phone. I recently just deactivated Instagram, Facebook. I was never on Snapchat, and I was never really on TikTok. I did open an account just if I'm heavy on the YouTube, trying to expand its reach and everything. So I do have, but my main one, I even had MySpace. I don't even know if you're familiar with what MySpace, but it was like what preceded Facebook.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. Shades says, but you can't even compliment these sexually liberated women without exposing yourself to sexual harassment. I don't know about these double standards in today's world. Well, the thing about it, Shades, is everyone in history has always been talking about today's world. And generations they don't battle each other, but there's definitely generational, what do you call it? Stereotypes. Like Gen Zers, well, not Gen Zers, just basically ignore boomers, but Gen Xers and millennials, we battle with boomers.
Yeah.
And then and boomers, well, boomers don't really like millennials. Gen Zers. So I've been studying this a little bit, and you hear the good stereotypes and the bad stereotypes. The boomers had, they were the generation that came before them is called the silent generation, because
Wasn't that the first one?
yeah, I think so. Well, the first relevant one, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe, yeah. They were the World War, veterans. So they experienced so much death and the Spanish flu, and everything was death and destruction. So they're very humble. And then the Depression, I think, or was that baby boomers? No, the boom came after the Depression, I think. That's why the boom happened, or maybe.
Yeah, that's because in 1957 there was a very high increase in birth,
Yeah.
and so that's why they called it baby boomer, I think.
Right, yeah, because everyone was celebrating good, productive, proficient times, so they were all, and then they wanted to wait when the Depression was going on and the war was going on. Actually, I think the boomers might have caught, as literal babies, they might have caught the end of the Depression, but or maybe not. I'm not sure. So yeah, so even boomers are said to be very, very driven, to very, very high work ethic, but also very strict because they had to work. They were basically rebuilding America.
Yeah, and you're right. Even in movies, it kind of shows that.
Right. But if it, so, and it made me understand the differences between me and my old man too, is like, there's no way he's going to not encourage me to get, like, because he didn't want me trying the whole YouTube thing for a living. He wanted me in a corporation, in a steady job with health benefits and working and responsible and stuff like that. So like, it helped me understand the difference between the generations.
Yeah, and then that makes me like wonder, like, what if World War never happened? Would baby boomers be as strongly work as much as they do, and like as strict as what they are?
No, everything that has happened during every generation has influenced the generation.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder how they would be.
Like 9/11, it influenced, millennials, and also I was probably 19 or 20. I was about 20 when 9/11 happened. So it influenced us, and then I joined the Navy and right after 9/11. So that definitely influenced my generation. The Navy influenced my work ethic and my whatever. And also there was a whole lot of propaganda about, being patriotic. And I'm just getting over that. In fact, as an adult, I learned slower, you know what I'm saying? I got ADHD, so it takes me a while. So I'm just now learning that, America is, we've always been taught we're the greatest, we're the strongest, we're the best. There's nothing else. And there are metrics that are the greatest. Like if you see a pie chart of our budget for the military and compared to all of the other countries, we are exactly one half of the pie chart compared to the others, I don't know, 9 countries or whatever.
Oh yeah, China.
Yeah.
China's the biggest or Asia, really.
Yeah. So like, but
we're nothing compared to them, how many people they have.
Well, yeah, people. I'm talking about military budgeting. If you look at a military budget's pie chart for the countries, the United States, our budget takes up half of the pie chart, and then the rest of the world's countries' military budgets are in the other half.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. We are the strongest military. I'm pretty certain that is not a lie or propaganda. but we also, I think, have to be, because I really don't think most of the world likes us very much.
No, I don't think so.
We're basically the rowdy teenagers of the world. We're the youngest country.
Well, every other country thinks that, we're stupid.
And we're probably,
Kind of.
yeah. Well, I mean, get this: how many Americans are bilingual? Then you go anywhere else in the world, they speak English, Spanish, Portuguese. Some of them speak Chinese. A lot of them are trilingual, quadrilingual, and all that.
We're not.
We're not. We're just like, we don't need to know anything but English. We're the greatest.
Yeah, we have messages and we can talk English.
That's, I mean, that, hopefully, well, that, I mean, depending on what happens in politics, which it's been a shit show. So, like, a lot of people, seriously, the more people are moving out of America, there's around the world, since 2016 than ever.
Yeah.
And,
Most Americans that I know, the only foreign language that they can, say is either, gracias or, what is it? Hola, ¿cómo estás? Those are like the main words that people know.
right. We border a Spanish-speaking country, Mexico. So, like, and I was taught Spanish in high school. But like in the Navy, I met there was people from there was immigrants from around the world serving with me in the United States Navy. And most of them knew multiple languages. And that's one of the greatest signs of intelligence, is the ability to know different languages, because it activates different parts of the brain. So like a lot of the stuff Americans teach Americans when we're young is just, that's why you got motherfuckers kneeling for the Star Spangled Banner. I don't blame them.
I don't either.
I was taught, I still to this day know the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. Why?
Oh, yeah, we used to do that in school every single morning.
You know what I mean? Like, I pledge allegiance? What the fuck kind of North Korean
I
type
pledge
shit is that?
allegiance to the flag. I'll probably never forget it.
I pledge allegiance. That's some North Korean shit right there.
They force you to do it. Even in middle school, elementary school, they force you to get out of your seat and to do it.
And then, when 9/11 happened, we came together because we didn't like that shit. I've been watching some documentaries on that. Man, it still blows my mind. But we didn't like that shit, and the politicians of America basically jumped on that, jumped on us coming together and getting angry, and basically, started chanting USA, and then the Iraqi war and the war on Afghanistan has been, I mean, they've been shit shows. Not as I can't talk really because I don't know much, but I do know the popular opinion is like the war on Afghanistan dragged on, or maybe is it still going? I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah, and Fox News, that's terrible. That's a lot of propaganda.
Yeah, that's the other thing is our world is, I don't know if it's an addiction, but there's a switch. There's been a switch to, I don't know if it's a switch. It's probably been always happening, but it's based, a lot of shit is based on how well and how loud you can articulate your opinion.
Yeah.
And
people get really mad too if you don't agree with them on something. And then that's whenever they're like, no, man, no, I heard it on TV.
Right.
It's the truth.
Right.
Everything I hear.
We're out of Afghanistan, Kent said. Yeah, I think I heard who pulled the I forget. But Anyway, yeah, nicotine, I don't know where it's going because it took it on another form as far as addictions over generations. Nicotine was cigarettes, now it's vape.
Yeah.
Cannabis is becoming legal, but that's of all of the mind altering substances, cannabis is not only the least harmful, it is also partially beneficial, and it's not lethal. But who
Right.
knows what they're putting in the who knows what they're putting into the vapes and stuff.
A lot of chemicals. It's bad.
I think also through evolution of the generations, the easier we can release dopamine in our heads, and because when you hit that TikTok, that Instagram, or that Pornhub, we're getting dopamine hits. I
Yeah.
mean, they are manufacturing dopamine. Their job, and I know this because the same people that make slot machines in Las Vegas are hired for these companies like TikTok and Pornhub and Facebook to get as much dopamine released as possible when you're on the screen with them. So they're manufacturing dopamine, and I think the addiction for dopamine is going to happen, and eventually, and I think this might be why boomers might call the later generations lazy, is because we get our dopamine not from achieving, but from swiping, from
Yeah.
like easy stuff. And they had to literally, I mean, they had to literally go achieve stuff, the boomers. Now Generation X, we saw the rise of video games. Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. I've had literally one of each.
Yeah.
So our dopamine started to be manufactured too. Then MTV came along, and then television, and that was the formative years. I think generations are defined on the formative years. Who's a teenager in certain years? Who's between 14 and 25, and what was going on in that decade? I think that's basically how the generations are. That's why they call it Generation Z, or that's why they call the millennials born in 1980.
Yeah.
But we're teenagers between 94 and 2005.
Yeah. I think, in my opinion, I think it's personally from all the stuff that's come out, I think that's why there's more mental illness now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
That was another thing I saw on the positive note for Gen Zers, was that you all are more aware of and have more access to treatment of more mental disorders,
Yeah.
including addiction. So whereas more substances are more readily available to you, there's also information and healthcare available for the prevention of and the treatment of addiction disorders. So, I mean, they even have social media addiction like treatment now.
They have a
And
treatment for social media.
treatment for phone addiction or social media addiction, or you can just have an app that basically measures your screen time. The iPhone can measure your screen time, I think.
Yeah.
There's more
Well, I'll tell you
awareness.
what, we have some social media addicts in my school. There's a lot of people in the class, they don't even acknowledge the teacher. They just keep their head down, they stare at their phone the entire hour.
Right. I mean, Instagram, TikTok, they don't want you aware of how to measure your screen time. They don't want that at all.
Yeah.
What's up, EC? What's up, Kelly? What's up, Kent? Are you aware of the fourth turning? No, I've never heard of that. Have you heard of that, Noah? The fourth turning?
fourth turning? I don't think so.
That's a Kent question. Kelly says it's called working, James. Not sitting at home and playing video games, hon. Hey, I was trying to play video games as my work. I was trying to live the dream. I was trying to find a loophole. Listen, I have ADHD. I'm allergic to boredom. I'm allergic to boredom. That is my disorder.
I hate boredom.
ADHD, man, it's a real thing. People are just like, nah, you're lazy. No. No, I literally have lower dopamine levels in my brain than neurotypical people. So I need something stimulating to do, or I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, and I've heard before, I don't even know if it's true or not, but I've heard that people with ADHD have a higher chance of becoming addicted to stuff because they don't have as much dopamine production.
Yeah. 50% of people with ADHD also experience addiction disorders, according to my memory from the past research I've been doing in the past day. So 50% of ADHDers experience also addiction disorders. And my nail biting thing that I have
that same problem too. I bite my nails constantly.
That is a response to so ADHD can be defined as executive function disorder. Executive function is things like organizing your thoughts, planning, motivating, and stuff like that. And when those things are in disorder, things pile up. And what nail biting or fidgeting, some people rip their hair out and eat it.
Oh, that's a little weird.
These are called I forget what they're called, behavioral something, but they're basically to comfort the ADHD mind because there's so many executive things building up. Executive meaning basic things of life to do, like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I'll get upset because I have to find food and eat it.
Yeah.
So like my nail biting. So that's one thing. But then another thing is the dopamine. We seek out easy dopamine. Scrolling, drugs, nicotine is probably popular among ADHDers. The fourth turning relates to generational cycles along with economics, is what Kent says. So the fourth turning. Mind's Eye says, I grew up in a TV generation. Hypnotism in a box. I noticed my old man watches a lot of TV. He's also part of the boomer generation when the TV was invented. So like everybody was going crazy about TV. They ate dinner around TVs. That's when the TV dinner was popularized. The TV, that's when Flipper was coming on and the Andy Griffith Show and all that. So like now as an old man, he's like big on TVs. He's never lived without a TV.
Yeah.
I would say he's addicted. I would say my dude is addicted to TV. As much as we're addicted to phones, or I have a little TV in me too. Like I feel more comfortable when a TV is on. I love when a movie starts. There's something about all of that just makes me comfortable.
Yeah. There's something about older generations. They have it just seems like they have a bigger issue with TV.
Yeah, that was
one of my great grandmas. She's always on CNN. She's addicted to it, and she gets really mad.
Yeah, maybe the news too, because that might be an interesting thing too, because that might have been, I think the news was what all TV programming centered around when TV first came out. So you got the news, and then in between the news cycles, there would be different programming. So like the news was what everybody watched. So that probably explains like why my dad still watches the news too.
Yeah. The problem is that the news it can kind of, escalate your heart rate and your blood pressure,
Right.
especially for like very old people. And it can, like that happened to my great grandma. She ended up in the hospital because she got so paranoid and her blood pressure went too high.
Yeah. Yeah. I when I go to my dad's house and he's got the news on, I have to ask him to change it because it is like some doom and gloom. And he's so used to it, he's like unaware of it. But meanwhile, I don't watch the news, so I'm being stressed out. I'm like, what is this that they're showing us, man?
My favorite show.
In the news. And now opinions have become so popular. The money decides what they're going to show and stuff. So JV John Venturini recommended something the stream or two ago. It's called Ground News, and I checked it out, and it is a non-biased news because it shows you where the sources came from, and also has graphs and stuff on which way they lean and all that. It's basically Ground News is a news that is an answer to biased news. Basically, it's how to find the truth. Basically,
Yeah.
Ground News. Because
this year people are going to be really, starting a really big argument, especially whenever the election comes around.
Yeah, I mean they already have. I get my news from YouTube. I will check out Fox News every once in a while, but I really can't even stand. I cannot stand it. It just seems like a clown show to me.
I know.
It honestly seems like Idiocracy. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah.
That's what it seems like. It makes me embarrassed for humanity. I'm like, these have to be the same people because when I was a kid, they used to have this quote newspaper in grocery store lines called the National Enquirer, and you would see all kinds of things like aliens invade Kansas, or you would see like demon baby born, with a picture of like this baby with fangs and shit, but it looked like real news.
That's one of the jobs that I don't think I could ever do. I don't think I could ever work on the news and be filmed, because I think I'd lose it. I think I'd end up laughing if I had to make a serious face.
Yeah, for real.
I don't think I could do it.
That was my biggest problem in Navy boot camp, was laughing. I just couldn't. I was supposed to be at attention, and they were yelling all in my face, and I just couldn't stop laughing.
The number one time that I laugh the most is whenever there's nothing to laugh about.
Right.
I don't know why.
Right. Oh, I bet you're a blast at funerals.
I mean, not that I'm a sad person. I don't know. I don't know if I do that, but.
Well, everybody deals with death differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's actually probably natural to have that, maybe, because your brain is trying to respond to the issue.
Death is dealt with differently around the world too. This just happens to be our culture. I know. I just heard in some cultures they do say the bad things about the person as well as the good things. Some cultures, they straight mummify the body and put it on a chair and parade it around through the village and celebrate like on a parade. And then
Oh, I've seen videos like that.
Yeah, and they keep them in the house and shit. And there's these little kids going to visit their grandparents, but they're dead corpses. But they're not.
I don't know. that would traumatize me.
Yeah, but me, the American.
Say hello
but
to your grandma. She's just sitting in the chair cold.
Yeah, well, yeah, she's not. They were treated somehow, like mummified or something. But the kids were just like, this is grandma or whatever. They were just like, and there was a lot of flowers. That was a celebration of life. It was a celebration of the life of the dead person.
Yeah.
You know, we probably, our funerals probably seem weird to some of the world. You
I don't
know,
like going to funerals. You know, I've been invited, but I don't really understand it. Like, I don't understand the gathering of just, you know, just crying your eyes out. That's not something I want to do.
yeah, I don't,
Not that I don't care, but
I haven't had someone, well, my mother died in 2016. My little sister just died last year. And but still I don't know. Well, like I said, I don't feel bad for it because everybody handles grief differently. But I kind of, death to me is, I of course don't like it, but it's easy for me to accept because there's no work. They're dead. That's it. There's nothing I can do. Like
it's natural.
there's stuff in my day-to-day life now that I struggle with because I don't have the wisdom to know the difference between the things I can change and the things I can't.
Yeah.
Like you've probably heard me talk about on this channel before, like I could become a UFC fighter if I wanted to, starting tomorrow morning, if I just try hard enough and train and set my mind to it. But at what cost? And can it really be done? You know what I mean? Like, what can you change about your life and what can't you? But the one thing about death is you can't, they're gone.
Yeah.
So that is one thing, whether it's my ADHD or whatever it is about it, that's one, they're dead. That's when I begin to like move on. But, so there's not, of course I cried like a baby at my mom's memorial. But you know,
Sure.
everybody deals with death differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if somebody died, I'd probably be in shock first, but then I'd probably cry. But some people, you know, they stay, you know, they're crying for months.
Yeah.
And I get that because, you know, you've lost someone, but it's also, you have to look at it. It's natural. And whatever happens, it just happens.
Yeah. That, Ingrid is saying something that my sister says to me that is that when my dad goes, I'll feel it. And I know if one of my dogs died, I'd feel that as well.
This might make no sense, but I actually feel like I'd be more emotional because I also have a dog. And I feel like I'd be almost more emotional if an animal died.
Well, our bonds are deep with animals. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And there's probably psychology behind all that. Like there's no social barriers between us and our dogs, but there are between us and even our closest family. There's still these social and psychological barriers. We don't get as close necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, something about it.
And then to merge these two topics together, the Irish they're huge on drinking at funerals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, that's a really bad problem on my dad's side of the family because all of them happen to be very Irish, and some of them even came from Ireland. So
yeah,
there's more alcoholics on his side.
It's like a tradition to get wasted.
They celebrate it.
Or at least in the movie Snatch it was.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. All right, man. Well, I'm going to wrap the stream up. Hey, it sounds like you're doing all right. I'm glad to hear it.
I'm doing better after this. This is an interesting topic.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Thanks for participating. Your call definitely makes it more interesting to the viewers. I know that.
Yeah.
And to me. All right, brother. Well, I will talk to you soon, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, on when did you say Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay. Yeah, I'll remember that.
All right, brother. Pleasure talking to you. I'll see you next time.
All right.
All right, peace. Noah. I'm getting better at reading the comments while somebody is all. Oh, there's Sour Pouch. How you doing, Sour Patch? Oh, Sour Patch. Wait, who asked me if they could call tonight? Somebody asked me other than Noah in one of the comments. Are you viewing right now? Person in the comments that asked if you could call. If you are, type it in. I'll turn the line back on, but it is we are going on an hour and a half of broadcasting. So obviously between generations there is different addictions, aka quaaludes for boomers and social media, phone addiction and stuff like that for Generation Zers. Different addictions. Nicotine, I know that boomers were highly addicted to cigarettes. Generation Xers like myself and some of the early millennials, cigarettes. Cocaine was probably big for boomers and some millennials or some Gen Xers. But not as big not as big. It'd be interesting to see the graphs and charts. Opiates made a spike in, and this also has political indications too. Who, what the healthcare plans are and what the opiate prescriptions are like, and stuff like that. So, generations. Fit for Task wanted to know number to call. Fit for Task. Well, it has been an interesting stream. How are you guys liking life out there? Can trigger me at moment's notice. My dog is getting rambunctious. Just reading some of your comments here. Yeah, Ground News. I'm going to check it out more and more to get down to the truth. Because one thing, and let's face it, maybe more nowadays, but definitely ever since man has first put pen to paper and turned a video camera on himself to report the news, there has been biases and, biases. We're human. Of course we're biased. All of us are biased because of our different experiences and our different, but there should be, and I think in the oath, there should be an oath that reporters go through. And if, thank you, Sour Patch, there should be an oath that they stick to, a responsibility statement that reporters stick to, that even though we are human, we should be speaking the truth when reporting things that have the journalist creed, exactly. Things that have when the truth needs to be reported, or things, topics of this nature, like addiction and recovery. There needs to be whatever. What do I know? I don't even know what I need half the time. Let me tell you what the world and humanity needs. It's like, James, you don't have any pants on. Well, I didn't think I needed pants today, but let me tell you what humanity needs. The truth is hard to find. With a little practice, you can navigate through unfair bias, and you can navigate through, you can essentially do the opposite of following the money. That's what brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous. You do the opposite of follow the money. You go where there is no money being made. That's where the truth is. Unless, of course, somebody's, making their money on telling the truth. Is that a thing? Maybe that's what Ground News does. That's the corruption of money. Is the truth becomes secondary to the almighty dollar. Critical thinking. The reason people take what they hear for the truth these days is that more and more people are lacking critical thinking. Critical thinking is defined as, is it untrue, partially true, mostly true, or true? Or in other words, is it true, mostly untrue, or untrue? And critical thinking is the ability to find which one of those it is. But people these days are just flipping on Fox News, whatever they're telling them. They go to the water cooler the next day and start getting in a fight over what Fox News told them. And I know all of them, or most of them, but let me tell you that there are some more that reliable than others. But I know, and I know this. I just know. Critical thinking, that's all there is to it. Finding the truth is inconvenient and time consuming. That's how they got us. That's how they got us. That's how they get us. Finding the truth is time consuming and inconvenient. That's why people just want someone to tell them, you know what I'm saying? I have a bias. I guess you could call my affinity for Alcoholics Anonymous a bias. Because my experience, and there's a lot of it throughout different forms of recovery. Now, I've only been to, let's say, Celebrate Recovery a couple times. I've only been to, let's say, Favor a dozen or so times. I've been, but of all of the recovery conduits I've ever been to, Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, the 12 steps is what works. I may have a bias towards that. Then again, that bias might help people but whatever. You know what I mean? I have a bias against Suboxone and Methadone for treatment of opiates and heroin. My sister died recently over overdose on heroin. She's been on Suboxone and Methadone and stuff like that for 7 years. And I just saw her going downhill on it, and other people too. And I've taken Methadone, put me in the emergency room. I was getting high off of it with my sister once. And I, of course, don't have an off switch. And I was drinking, and I was probably on Xanax too. So my body froze up, and I ended up in the emergency room. So I have a bias against Suboxone. And I also have a bias against pharmaceutical companies. You know who's behind methadone and Suboxone? Big pharma. You know what I mean? So I have bias too. What's one of my more irresponsible biases? I try not to have them. I try to be responsible. But yeah, good journalism is a measure of its public service. So when I go through a decision-making process, this is a form of, we could say, media. People watch the research I do. So I go through a decision-making process. Is it going to be easy so I can do it lazily? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to go with my beliefs? Is it going to go against my beliefs, even though it could be helpful for you, the viewer? I've done streams on the alternate avenues of recovery. I don't have that much experience with all of them, though. The experience I do have is that they don't work. That's the experience I have with basically everything but AA. So anyway, that's my bias. As far as you don't hear me talking to politics on here a lot because people get sensitive about their politics. You don't hear me talking religion a lot on here because people get sensitive about their religion. I'm not trying to insult anybody's identity. I have a fundamental understanding of we all believe certain things because of our experience and our lives and stuff. So like, I've believed some bullshit before too. And I'm not saying anybody is believing bullshit or anything, but some people believe bullshit. I believed it before, but different people believe different types of bullshit, and different people have different bullshit radar. I don't know. And then I basically, it doesn't have to be said by me. Does it have to be said? Does it have to be said by me? And does it have to be said by me now? And usually I have had to hone that decision-making process down because it used to not, my filter hasn't always been as present. There are some things that I think I should say, but then again, I've said shit that I thought I should say before, and then later, years later, or however long later, found out that I was wrong, and therefore, you know what I mean? But there are certain things that I know aren't, well, whatever, I don't know. I try to be responsible, and I think, and obviously there's nothing I'm going to do about the news media and the politicians of the world to, change them, to make them, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of an acceptance thing. It's kind of an acceptance thing, like this is the way the world is, life on life's terms. I don't have to like everything, but I definitely have to accept it because it's life. Now I could go protest and I could go campaign and I could go do those things, but then again, like I said before, at what cost? You can't be everywhere at all times. You can't know everything about everything. Ain't nobody got time for that. So like you gotta pick your battles. It's a surrender thing. Exactly, Kent. And that's and it's especially for us alcoholics and addicts. It's a surrender my will and what I want. It's a surrender thing. Surrender to life on life's terms. And surrender isn't just waving a white flag because I've been beaten into pulp by the, you know what I mean? Surrender is acknowledgement that I don't have the power to win this battle. You know what I mean? So you can either die in denial, or you can surrender the fact that I don't have the power to drink alcohol. I don't have it. My will insists that I do have the power to drink it. It insists that I do have the power to quit on my own. You have to surrender yourself. You have to abandon that belief. That is a false belief, and it brings power. What will be, will be. Kelly, what are you even doing? Kelly, are you a boomer? I'm just trying to figure stuff out. Life on life's terms. For all of you guys out there of different ages and different generations, I wish you the best with your generational addictions. I do know with addiction, surrender is the first step. You surrender the fight. That's why Reagan made a war on drugs, and drugs are still winning that war. And that's why there is no fighting addiction. Not the president, not a whole nation, not even you, the individual. Nobody can fight addiction. It's a surrender thing. You surrender your will. You bring in a power greater than you, whether that be God or Alcoholics Anonymous, the program. No alcoholic has ever in the history of alcoholics kicked alcohol's ass. I'll tell you right now, alcohol made me its bitch every time. Every time. I'm not trying to lie to you and say I've had power over it, because I haven't. That's part of recovery. I didn't. I did not. There is no... Onlookers would not say that about my relationship with alcohol, and I cannot say that about my relationship with alcohol. I was the last one. I was the last one to admit it. Oh, shit. All right, y'all. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll see you Monday. It's Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays now. And maybe we'll hear from Noah on Monday, or maybe we'll hear from somebody else. But until then, keep it clean, keep it real, and keep doing the damn thing. Peace.